Okay, so this video, I wanted to touch on the concept of timing. And I know a lot of parents lots of times think they don't have the time to be able to put into some of the extracurriculars that I talked about or whatever. I know a lot of parents work, you know, kind of like a 9 to 5, 8 to 5 type of thing. They might see their kids when, you know, they get through their commute at 6 o'clock or whatever, and, you know, might just have to choose maybe 1 or 2 extracurriculars for the kids. Or, you know, financially, maybe just one, or seeing where they can, you know, work in free activities and maybe rely on field trips that the school takes, that kind of thing. But my Kumon instructor suggested a book to me that really drove home the concept of timing and the blessing of timing. And I think it wasn't just about time and how your time is kind of how your time of day goes, but more so the time in life that you are as a parent, the time as far as when your children are born, as far as what's happening in the world, whether it be technology or where you live, or transitions that the place you live is going through. And the book I've suggested to all my friends is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And it explored a number of different topics. I mean, it's been a minute since I read it. I read this, it says 4/14/14 is when I started reading it. So that was all 10 months ago. Exactly, actually. But what I loved, he talked about outliers, and an outlier meaning a person who you see maybe in the news or in media who is just far above and beyond, whether it's in their particular industry, whether it's in sports, whether it's in all facets of life, like say a lawyer that just surpassed all other lawyers, that's a household name, or a model, or whoever. Okay, see. Anyway, I'm going to talk over the kids fussing over a pencil. Anyway, so he brought up case studies such as Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, those that stand out in sports. And timing as far as birth date is concerned, I thought was interesting because I have a baseball player, and it's always a big thing, you know, turning in the birth certificates, finding out when their birthday is as far as when they turn whatever age, determining on if they can play up or if they are eligible for a certain team, that kind of thing. And they had a case study about hockey and it being very big in Canada. And when you have that ideal birthday, the early January birthday, how the kids physically are bigger and that kind of thing. And they looked at even professional players, and most of their birth dates happen in the first 4 months of the year. And part of that is what happens is those kids early on are kind of picked as great players, special kids, gifted, whatever, but really it might just be their birthdays are in such a way where they end up a little bit bigger as they're growing up. So they're the big kids on the team because of how the cutoff is for the age when you're signing your kids up. So what happens is those kids, they get extra attention early on, and then they get better than, say, the other kids who might have been smaller but might be great players and will catch up eventually in life. But early on, they're getting that extra specialized attention and instruction from the coaches that makes them far supersede. And it seems so unfair because it's one of those things that if you're not really paying attention, or if somebody doesn't point it out to you, you think, oh, well, my kid just doesn't have what it takes. When your kid probably could have what it takes if they had just that extra instruction that maybe that kid who's like a year older got, just because of how their age, what month they were born. which is ridiculous when it seems like somebody would be favorited by a month, you know, what month they were born. So in that happening, like, I think I have one kid who, like, has a January birthday, and we get him extra instruction with baseball because he's a great player. He's a gifted player. But because of how his birthday falls, I'm thinking, does that work for him? He's the beginning of the year. They sign up at the beginning of the year. I don't know. But anyway, I don't want my kids in the sports that they participate in to get overlooked because of a birthday type of thing. So I try to supplement that. You know, we try to get them the extra instruction and get all that in so that they can progress and get better. Like my other son, he has an August birthday, and it was kind of weird with the cutoff for him for golf. When he was playing, he had to move up a notch in the summer when he was competing and everything. So he was kind of the youngest. He's always the youngest in his class because he had an August birthday. There were, I believe this past school year, he turned his grade, his age, the day before school. One year it was the first day of school. So he's always the youngest in the class. And sometimes that's not good because he, you know, he's like, you know, the girls especially, they pick on me, they boss me around, they tell me I can't do that, this, and I can't do that. And he would kind of get it that way with the whole age thing as far as school. And it's kind of evident, you know, I was always young in school because I had an August birthday as well, or have an August birthday. But I just thought it was an interesting phenomenon because he talked about not just age related, but time in history. Like at the time that, say, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were in school, the introduction of the computer and where they had access to the computer like other kids didn't. He especially talked about Steve Jobs. And I listened to a story about women in computers, in like programming and those types of fields. And I was listening to some interviews, and one young lady, she's like, yeah, I wanted to go into computer science, but when I got into college in my first computer science class, I felt behind because it was mainly men, boys in my class, and they all had experience with computers, and I didn't have one much because they'd been tinkering, messing with computers because when they first started marketing the home computer, they marketed it towards get it for your son. This would be a great thing for your son to play with. So most of those home computers, those early adapters, they were in the son's room. And it wasn't seen as something that the girls played with. So she said, you know, I got in class and they're all looking at me like, wow, you don't know how to do that? And even though it was introductory, they were already far ahead where she was. So I believe the lady that they interviewed, she like dropped out of the program because she just felt discouraged just because of that. So those are the types of things where if you see, say, propensity for your child to excel in something and nobody else sees it, it might just be on you to go ahead and find that extra instruction. If no outside person is just like pointing them out and saying, ooh, you know what, can you meet me so I can instruct you a little more in this? It might just be on you so that your child can be an outlier, so to speak, because they get that early attention, but not because somebody else just, you know, arbitrarily chose them, that you just left it up to that, but that you go ahead and, I mean, nobody's going to know your child better than you. You know their strengths, their weaknesses, their desires, everything. I have one child who loves golf. I have one child who loves baseball. Especially his position as a catcher. So any extra attention and instruction that we need to get them, we do. We seek out people. We try to hook them up with people in the industry and get them extra instruction. And you can't necessarily leave that up to their coaches. You just can't. You can't leave it up to their teachers. Sometimes teachers are overwhelmed with classroom sizes of 30 kids. And they might have, like, one of them, my youngest, knew he loves computers. So I let him do his work for maybe 10 minutes of extra computer time. I mean, but what is that going to do for him? I found, now that I'm homeschooling him, a class. It's a homeschool. All of them are homeschoolers. So on Wednesdays, he goes up for 4.5 hours to this class. I drive to Alpharetta, and he takes a class, or my husband, in computer, video game design, app development, graphic artistry, and one more thing. And he loves computers. I know he'll probably go into some type of software, some type of that. So why not just start him early? We all have strengths and weaknesses. And if we had have known, or if our parents had been able to kind of turn us towards those things early on, then, you know, we might be stronger, or even have realized our passions even earlier in life. So that's all I'm going to leave you with that. Like I said, Outliers is a great book. It brings out a myriad of different, you know, concepts that I didn't go over, and I can't quite remember. I mean, but really into the psychology of why people behave the way they behave, because of environment, because of how they were encouraged earlier in life, or what they saw around them by their community, that kind of thing. So that's all. Thanks so much.